Hi, the name's Daniel, and thank you guys so much for choosing to watch this video. If you guys are here for Gunpla and Diorama building, you're in the right spot. I do want to give you guys a couple quick heads up. First off, this is the first time I've modded a kit like this or done a diorama of this degree ever. So if you guys have anything good, bad, or interesting to say, please, I'd love to read that and kind of learn from it, hopefully, if you guys leave some comments down below. So thank you, seriously. Along with that, this is actually for a college course I have called Multicultural American Literature. The idea is it's supposed to be a mini documentary of me making this kit as like my first kit like this. The other thing, it's supposed to tie into a concept, and the concept I've chosen is an indigenous people, or for this diorama, an indigenous person, and his or her, it doesn't matter either way for the pilot, but their spiritual and physical connection to a land they've long left. So with that, I'll get ahead to actually showing you guys the kit we're working on. All right, so this is the Wing Gundam Endless Waltz Real Grade Kit by Bandai Namco. There's two main reasons I chose this kit. First off, the real grade was the perfect size, and Wing Gundam has always been one of my favorite Gundams since I was a kid watching Wing Gundam on Toonami. So I knew that if I was doing a diorama that was going to be really detailed, especially for an assignment like this, I wanted to choose something I knew I was going to want to work on, and this was that guy. Secondly is his wings. A big idea that I've got for the kit was the indigenous individual wants to go back home. He's left home, he gained his freedom, but he wants to go back to that place that was spiritually bound to him, and he wants to protect it. And I couldn't think of anything more fitting to that than the wings themselves. So Wing Gundam was our guy. All right, so once you've got everything open, you've got your manual, your runners, and your stickers. On the manual, most of it is Japanese. Don't worry, you don't need to be able to read that to actually do the kit. The manual looks fantastic, and on the back, you have a whole section showing where all the stickers go. To get started, all you're gonna need are a pair of nippers like these and some sandpaper just to make sure everything fits together. All right, so when beginning, what I normally do is I take out an entire subsection of the kit. So for instance, you can see up top left where I've already pulled a leg off. I'm doing that now for the second leg. So I'll go through and I'll pull off or not pull off, but cut each individual part off and make sure it's as clean as possible. Once I've actually got them all kind of nicely sorted, I go through and I use an X-Acto knife to clean off all the big spots, and I'll go through and sand every piece. Not only to make sure they look as good as possible, but to make sure they fit together the way they're supposed to. As long as you've got everything cut and sanded, they end up fitting together really nicely. So don't worry as well, you don't have to move this fast. I've sped everything up so this doesn't take hours and hours to get through. So during this time, while you guys are seeing me actually assemble all the different pieces, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know the idea behind the kit, the story. As I mentioned before, this was an individual who was indigenous to this land, his home place, whether it was a planet, whether it was a continent, whatever it was specifically, and he wanted to go join a war front. The idea is that he succeeded. He got out there, he became a pilot for this amazing machine, and in doing so, did well and in a sense gained a freedom there. Well, while he's there, he learns that the new government, the new group that he's with, is planning on raising the place where he lived for minerals or for whatever's there. They've decided it's theirs and they're going to take it. Him not wanting that, he still has that spiritual connection. He has that want to be part of that land. He uses those wings that he's earned and he flies back. His goal is now to protect this place. And in doing so, he enters combat with the army that's approaching. When he ends up getting there, you'll see what's left of a battle-torn location. His Gundam is left on the ground, damaging everything, his shield broken and raised from the blast. The idea is that he succeeded. He did protect his home, but in doing so lost his life and was never able to touch down physically again. The second half of this is that idea of the culture being taken from, without regards of their well-being or want. And you can see this in the chain and the leg at the end when everything's built up. The idea is that the chains are part of that group that he was with, part of another culture, part of some government who's decided that this is now theirs. And you can see that when we get to that part with how damaged the leg actually is. And you'll see how it's just being dragged along without any care about anything else. This is years later. You can see the moss, you can see everything having overgrown now, and yet this other group doesn't care. Now, this part I'm working on right here is the head. I've always found the head of these Gundam to be really, really important. They really show kind of the characteristics, besides just the cool wings and the body parts. The heads really show, you know, they're very important. They show the face, they show the eyes, they show the connection for the entire thing. And Wing Gundam also has wings on his head, so it kind of goes to that idea of freedom and doing what he feels is right. All right, and with that, we've got pretty much everything built except for the wings and the shield. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys some silence until we get to painting. All right, so just before starting painting, we do need to put on all those super important stickers. You'll see that I don't have every piece up there ready to go. I'm not putting on everything. The idea is that this thing's age. It's got different things going on. I wanted to do my best and put on the things I found really important to the kit, but anything that I didn't feel was necessary to the kit, I kind of left off. I figured it would be damaged anyway. Now, this is the clear coat I'm using. This is the first time I've clear coated my room. I realized really quickly, not the best idea, but things kind of came out great. All right, so this is the foam I used. I've never done anything like this before, so I took a guess and I think I chose a really good one. Anyway, so the first thing we end up doing is actually grabbing another kit that I've already made before, because remember that paint's still drying. This is also an RG kit. More specifically, this is the God Gundam kit. What I end up doing is measuring it first to the tree, making sure I'm right. This is going to be right. And then I pose it to where I'm wanting the other kit to go. You can see me playing with it, kind of trying to figure things out, seeing if it balances. Basically, can I get this to look the way I want? Yes. And will it fit where I want with everything else? That's my goal. Once I know that, I sit there and the next plan is to actually draw out everything as a rough sketch. This is kind of like writing. This is that first draft. How is it going to look in the end? Is this going to look right? From there, I jump into sanding, carving and sanding. I guess I carved out the river and I spent a lot of time sanding to get this thing looking pretty close. In fact, this isn't nearly all the sanding and carving I did. Once we have that figured out, we actually apply a layer of glue to the foam to make sure that the paint doesn't like soak in and actually stays up on the surface. So here's the final paint job for the Gundam. You can see the legs missing. You can see some black char marks where the damage occurred. And you can see a lot of green and browns on here. The idea, like I said, is that it's returning to nature. So that's what's going to show. The shield's damaged, and you can also see a lot of burn marks on it. There's also a lot of green up at where the top is going to be, where there's going to be algae and growth afterwards. And lastly, here's that leg that's missing. I didn't get rid of it, just, had to take it off. So here's the final paint job for the foam. I've got the river there, I've got the dirt or the mud on the one side, and then I've also got where that explosion took place. Now, it looks kind of new. I do have to age it up later on. But the first thing I want to go ahead and do is actually add some texture and stuff. The idea is that I'm going to make any of the water out of epoxy, so I wanted to make sure we had, a river bed with dirt and sand. We had silt going on in there, and it looked more and more realistic as it went. You can see me putting a lot of rocks in, and I had a lot of fun. What I didn't do great was epoxy. Like I said, first time doing something like this. All right, so I mainly just have the pour, but as you can tell, I use note cards to kind of keep the epoxy in there. Honestly, not the worst idea I've ever had, But if you don't tape them up perfectly, it leaks bad. Anyway, here is the final thing after all the epoxies placed down. You can see after a few extra tries, it ended up turning out great. So the next step was to add more glue over that paint and start adding in texture, getting things look more like an actual land, a scape, if you will. I ended up putting in the shield, both parts, and getting everything laid out. The next thing really was to work on that leg and the chains. And sorry, this part actually took me a while, so I sped this up a little bit more and it looks kind of funky. Anyway, I really spent a lot of time not only gluing those chains on there, making that look like something was pulled. I had those fully painted, but I took a lot of time pulling these wires apart and getting them to look like they actually they were ripped apart and they might have come from the inside of the Gundam itself. So I'll show you a zoom in later, but I'm gonna let you know I'm pretty proud of them. So the next step was to fully fit on the trees and the Gundam and finalize everything. Trees looked really nice, especially up close, honestly. The biggest part was really getting the Gundam into place and getting those wings down, getting him balanced. I hadn't actually set him down and kind of set him up since I'd taken the leg off. Turns out that was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I also had to set up the arm so it was actually stuck in the tree, and I'd clay on it to make it look like it was actually part of the tree itself, or that the tree was growing around it. So finally all done. Here is the full 360 of everything. You can see the chains on the leg, the river. You can see everything in place. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty cool close up. I do want to let you know though, this doesn't end great. Everything gets fixed, but accidents happen. So here's the final resting place of this pilot who just wanted to protect his home. You can see the leg as it was pulled apart ruthlessly from the rest of its Gundam. The chains where I didn't put any government ties to anything, so they just hang off. You can imagine whatever government group or anything that would have taken that away for themselves, that's what fit there. You can see the river, you can see the stones underneath, and you can see the markings where the legs actually dragged along. The river bed and the river bank came out really well. Over here, you have the actual aged up, damaged land where you can see the shields now got growth over it. It's been damaged, and you can see where even the destroyed ground that he protected is healing over time. The final thing is the Gundam itself. Like I said, this was the pilot's thing. This was his whole life. And you can see where the leg was just unceremoniously torn apart. You can see the growth on the arms and the hips, the face, and if you look closely, you can see part of that bark, like I mentioned, growing on those arms. With that, this is my build. This was my kit, and this was the story I wanted to tell. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the whole thing. I hope you guys enjoyed the process. And at the end of the day, I hope you enjoy the final outcome, because I know I do. So thank you guys again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys on another one.